popped in a water pump on a 2013 Beetle CDFA engine code. I did it the long way. I took off the intake manifold and the fan so you guys could really see what's going on. As far as tools needed for the job, pretty simple. Quarter T30, 8-inch quarter-inch extension, 2.5-inch quarter-inch extension, 5-inch quarter-inch extension, 17 millimeter wrench, 10 millimeter deep quarter-inch socket, a triple square 10 millimeter quarter-inch socket, a pair of your favorite hose clamp pliers, and a quarter-inch deep 7 millimeter socket. That should pretty much get you going. Aside from the pick you're going to need to change out the injector seals, a little bit of brake clean to clean the seats, and a fresh oil filter. I always recommend if you're taking the manifold off, you may as well replace it. Other than that, you guys should be good to go. Let's get going. Start with the bracket down here for the harness, 2 T30s. Gonna loosen up the mounting for the front intercooler pipe, T30. We got 2 T30s on the fan shroud, on the top part. You're gonna always tell the difference for the fan shroud T30s because they have the built-in big washer on them. Don't mix them up. Couple of T30s for the coolant pipe. I'll drop that one, we're gonna grab it. Loosen up the 7 on the throttle body.
7 on the throttle body.
Use your pick to open that up. PCV hose, cam sensor, get the fuel line out of the way, vacuum supply hose for the intake manifolds, unplug that solenoid for the intake manifolds, pop out the oil filter. Alright, and 80 valve supply hose. Let's work it around.
Break that seal.
Get that unplugged. Get the intake manifold temp sensor unplugged. Get the throttle body unplugged.
Disconnect the throttle body plug.
Get the harness out of the way. T30 loose.
Cracking the T30
The intake manifold here. T30 is stuck. Get that on the bottom.
Well, as long as it hits the shield, it's a good sign.
Yeah. All right. While we're up here, we can also unplug the map sensor on this front pipe. Get that out of the way. Make sure the charge pipe's loose before
Where's
you
that
go
map
up.
sensor?
Right there. Unplug that right there.
Gotcha. Lower cover.
Dropped a couple things, so I want to grab those now.
What size is that? Triple what?
Triple 10. That's 45.
T45.
The fan connector.
Unplug the fan, which is right there.
Alright, we got a T30 on this side. And a T30 on this side.
So the lower fan shroud T30s. Careful with that fan.
Carefully let this guy come down.
You don't
nice
want to
and
smack
easy.
your radiator.
Support right here for the front charge pipe.
Right there.
Got a 7 going into the intercooler here.
Charge pipe 7 mil right there.
Let's crack them loose.
Work the hose with the pick.
Oh no. Gonna hit a little spin out on that. There we go.
Ooh, we got some oil in it.
A little bit of oil in there, alright. Take your front pipe out. Replace the drain plug. Always replace the seal with the drain plug.
The crush washer or?
This is a crush washer. Torque spec is 30 newton meters on this drain plug.
Throttle body T30. Those are the screws, force thread.
Alright, got 4 of those. Now we got an intake manifold support. This little bracket right here. I'm got a T30, or I'm sorry, a 13 mil on top. And then we have a triple 10 for the bottom support. You can see right here. See that bolt I'm touching? You don't have to light on it at all.
Oh, I see it. Right there.
Well, right here is the bottom support. Triple 10. 4-inch set of triple squares. Probably you recommend that? Right. Really, really, really important tool to have. Okay. Get that loose. You can just let that bracket kind of hang down a little bit. This is where the high pressure rail sensor is, and this is where the harness was clipped into. And just unclip the clip for the high pressure fuel pump. For the rail, rather.
Can you show me more once you get it exposed?
Yeah, once I take it out. Okay, so pull the harness down. Take your cam sensor harness, pull it through here. So we have all our T30s out. The only thing holding the manifold now is the high pressure fuel line and the 2 10mm bolts on either end. So before you loosen either of them, you want to loosen up the harness. There's 2 clips, one right here and one right down here.
You get a better shot of it when you pull it.
You loosen up those clips and you just pull the injector harness rail down off of the rail as much as possible. Put your fuel on.
17 mil, high pressure.
Number 1. Number 2. Alright, gently rock it. If you don't know what's coming out, like say 2 injectors stayed in, 2 injectors came out. So just unplug the 2 injectors from the rail on the ones that stayed in.
Just take your time.
Unplug the intake runner position sensor. This is where the high pressure rail sensor is, and this is where the harness was clipped into. Have a nice exposed view of the water pump. Let's get this harness out of the way. Unplug the temp sensor from the thermostat housing. Unplug the knock sensor. that bracket, unclip it from right here. Now we have a pretty good view of the water pump. You can see right here where the housing actually cracked. That's where our main leak is from. You see the seal pump pumping out of there. Yeah, this is pretty common failure. This is the original pump, so this pump made it 11 years. I'd say not that bad. Replace this J pipe here, which I always recommend replacing. It's cheap, it's less than $20. So when you're replacing the J pipe, disconnect the hose here. Let's get this T30 Keep these aside. The T30s for the pump are all different. So we got one and we got one under here. There we go. Pop that off, let everything drain out. Let's disconnect the hose right here. Let's get our water pump belt cover off. T30. T30. Alright. Save these two to the side. What we have left is our upper radiator hose. Quick connect. You can tell this person's been putting the universal yellow coolant in there, so that's not that great, but whatever. Gets that. And then the lower.
Yeah, what is the difference between the yellow and the orange?
They say it's just universal. I mean, the yellow and orange, big difference, but pink and yellow, they say the yellow is universal. Okay. All right, so let's get this housing off. 5 T30s. These two right here, always replace. So throw these bolts right out. Get them in the trash. Gone. Loosened up, take a pick, slide the belt off carefully. You don't want to chip it, nick it, do anything bad to it. And the pump will just release, just like that. Here's a close-up of the failure. Oh. Yeah, housing crack right there. Done. Inspect your oil cooler. It's not great. Not the worst. Got a little bit of shit hanging in there. Make sure the seal doesn't stick to that. This would be a really good time if you take the manifold to clean your valves. This particular customer did not want to clean their valves. They said they don't drive enough, which I would argue would be the ultimate reason to actually do it.
Because if you run a lot,
Yeah,
you're burning it out.
You're keeping it pretty clean. So, give it a quick little cleanup. You don't got to go crazy here. You want to try to keep as much coolant off the belt as possible. Grab your new water pump union. The old style unions, a little bit of spray silicone or some coolant works good. Both work about the same on these. Put your union in the pump. Take your pump, put the belt around it, angle your union in, and seat it to the block. There are 3 main body bolts. We're not gonna put them all the way yet. We're just gonna snug them.
Just snugging the
There are 2 also replace bolts. You can tell they got the fresh blue Loctite on them.
So top left.
Let's get them close.
Right below that. Right below that plug. And right there.
All right, Got our torque wrench set up from the inside out. We're going to torque them down to 9 Newton meters. This bolt just break. This bolt just fucking broke.
9 newtons.
Okay.
You have to demonstrate which bit that's how I
Okay.
Listen, bud. Leave me alone.
The cover goes with the tires. I'm sure it's
Cover.
Installing the cover. So knowledge on the belt.
The belt.
Knowledge on the belt.
The belt, you want to just keep the coolant off of it. It's not really an interval for replacement, and I personally don't see the need to replace it. I've only ever seen one break
Gotcha.
out of thousands of them.
And it's not required when changing.
It's not required when changing.
Because I always see that comment, why don't you change the belt?
I mean, yeah, why don't you change the engine? Why don't you change the car? There's got to be a limit. All right, we get our 2 upper and lower rad hoses clipped in.
Just prepping for a vacuum test. Fresh J pipe.
Put that in the hose. Okay, better T30s. Okay, let's get our hose back clipped on. You always want to kind of go in the original place. So, you know, you have that little shadow that was there. Try to use that to get your clamp back on where it was.
Yeah, because it'll hold the same pressure, you know.
Exactly, yeah. And if it wasn't leaking before, if you put it in the same spot, the odds are it won't be leaking again. Also, too important, you want to keep these clamps straight. Like, see that little crooked, that little millimeter off can make all the difference. You don't want your clamps to be on there crooked. It's not going to be holding good. This guy, dude, I hate this guy.
Already doing a vacuum test.
All right, good time for a vacuum test. We can still see it, we can still fix it if we have a problem.
Fancy vacuum pump.
Check up here, we're looking pretty good. Got a pretty good vacuum happening. It's holding. Let's fill it up. That's the sign of a good tight vacuum when it fills the bottle right through the tippy top. I ain't mad at it. We'll suck out a little bit to make room for expansion and contraction. Side of taking the manifold off, you're gonna have to reseal the injectors. Pop those guys out. If you want to be fancy, you can buy yourself a T10 133-3 toolkit using the T10 133-2 adapter. Back out of there.
Keep your injectors in order.
Yep. Injector seats, that way you know you're making a good feel.
quick cleanup on these guys. Yeah, it's better without the light. So they're nice and clean.
If you're doing the seals, you're probably exposing yourself to another $70, say, in cost of doing this job. But if you're doing it yourself, you're probably saving about $500 in labor, I would take a guess.
What are we doing?
Resealing the injectors. This guy here and the tensioner. I never replace this seal. I personally think you're going to do more harm than good. We have the tooling to do it. It stretches it on. I mean, if I was doing a big build, like an engine build or something crazy, yeah, maybe I would think about it. But in my experience, you're going to create more of a problem changing a seal like this. So I just go in order. I keep them in order and I replace them in order. Here's number 2 here. Obviously, you want to clean all the oil. You can tell these have never even been taken out. The blue seal is the original color seal on these older cars.
Give me a shot what it looks like finished. Yeah, perfect. Do that 2 more times. You got stuff in there.
Pop it out of the manifolds. All right, get our injectors in. Let's get our harness rerouted correctly. Clip it on the J pipe, make sure you have connection. Reattach the knock sensor harness. Plug in your output temp sensor. Plug in all the injectors. Make sure you hear the click. There you go. When you put the manifold on, first things first, plug in the intake manifold runner position sensor. All right. Now you're going to come down, find the studs, the 10s on the outside, get on those loosely. Grab your harness, snap your harness guide frame onto the manifold. See down here? It makes a connection here and then it has 2 clip connections up here. It's important to do this now, otherwise it could potentially get stuck in between the manifold and the cylinder head. It can just create a lot of problems in the next couple of minutes of finishing the job up. So slowly work your way forward. Good hard press. You know you're in a good spot when your high pressure line starts threading on easy. Like that's what I want to see right there. Like a nice easy thread on. Means I'm not cocked one way or the other. Okay. Pins on first.
Pins on first.
Get some even pressure on both sides. Go through, get your T30s now, center working your way out. Take your cam sensor harness before you put the oil filter on. Thread it up in between the number 1 and 2 runner. Clip it to the fuel line mount. Plug her in. Take your vacuum supply, snap it in, connect it to your N80. Now is a good time, before you forget, tighten up your high pressure fuel line.
17 on the high pressure. That's a good snug on those.
Yeah, nice snug on those. Don't go crazy. You don't gotta be a show out. Tighten it too much. Okay. Let's grab this plug right here. This is for our secondary air. Or not, I'm sorry, for our intake runner solenoid. Snap that in.
You say it one more time.
That's for our intake runner solenoid. Plug that in. Then we're going down to our bracket. Get your bracket. Get it on the 13 stud. Take your 13 nut. Thread it on loosely so you still have a little bit of give. Then you want to line your 1010 up on the bottom.
1010 on the bottom of that bracket.
Once again, the quarter 1010. This is going to be a great tool for you. It's going to give you access to slide around these coolant pipes. Get right in there. Give that a snug. Okay.
Tighten up the 13.
You're going to pull your throttle body harness up through this crack here.
Where's that crack?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
And then we have plug in your fuel rail pressure sensor. Make sure you hear the snap. All right, check here. Make sure your harness routing is good for your knock sensor, your injector harness. Keep this stuff loose. Keep this guy turned up out of the way. Full pipe, you can always tell which ones they are because they're about 10 millimeters longer than every other T30 in the job.
The coolant pipe?
Yeah, it's important to use the right ones. So get that one started loosely. Then you're just coming up from the bottom on this one. Snug it down. Snug it down. Yep, our oil filter installed now. We don't want anything falling down in there, any foreign objects, dust, dirt, debris. You can see right here, you got some oil pooling, small leaks here. Typically this valve cover leak is the root cause of those water pump housing failures. The oil will drip down, it will swell the seal, and just like a frozen pipe, the water expands and breaks the pipe, the rubber expands when the oil hits it and it will actually break the housing.
Got it.
Let's get our hose back in. Make sure you have the support clip installed on there. Okay, now we're going to get the throttle body going. Like this 2.5 inch extension, quarter T30. Seems to do the job pretty good for doing it upside down. So always start on the outside one here. Get it in a couple threads. Get the next one going. I don't know what it is about these electric tools, but they don't like working upside down. Okay, I got 2 more. You know you're tight with these coarse threads once you hear your tool start to bind up. That's how you know you're actually tight. You don't want to go too much past that. You're making problems for yourself. I saved the hardest one for last. I don't know why. Oh, you can hear that that change in pitch. Okay. So you're going to thread your harness underneath your intake air temp sensor, and the N80 valve goes behind the hose, around, and plugs in just like that. Get your N80 supply line on. Same as anything else, try to get that clamp back where it was, nice and clean. Okay. Here, click.
PCB hose.
Click. The click is important. This can blow off. If only one side gets attached, this thing will pop off, cause air leaks, system too lean, all kinds of stuff.
Charge pipe.
Since we have no fan in, we can do this. If the fan was installed, we probably wouldn't be able to feed this down like this.
So no fan, you can install the charge.
Oh boy, look at this guy. Our charge air pipe down in there. Let's plug in the sensor. Lift it up into its position.
Right there.
Yeah.
T30.
230. Okay, got our upper
bracket.
Yep, support. I don't put them there for no reason. Always put them back on.
Charge pipe 7 mil. 7 mil in the upper charge pipe.
Okay, plug in the throttle body. Support bracket. We got two T30s going straight up. Don't tighten them all the way at first. That way the holes line up. Okay. Tight. Looking good. Line up your lower support for T30 here.
Lower support for T30.
Right. Point fan ready.
Installing the fan.
Carefully slide it in. Once you feel like you have to force it, stop, take a deep breath, and do it again. You're not doing it right. Loosely. Just plug it in, don't forget to plug it in. Click, and then secure the red locking tab.
Connect your charge pipe.
Got your 7 right here.
7 mil.
Okay, nice and tight. It's very rare to see these with the correct amount of bolts in them, and it's pretty disheartening.
T45.
No, not a T45.
No?
Triple 10.
Oh, triple 10.
Triple 10. If you don't have all these bolts, see this one's missing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them. You're guaranteed to hear popping in the suspension.
It's just flexing.
Yeah, it's just flexing. I mean, this thing is a big piece of metal. It's like part of the body. Didn't have many of these either. I'm giving 2 courtesy T25. 30s for the upper fan shroud.
T30 for upper fan shroud. Does it have like the built-in washer?
Yep, big washer on it. Can't miss it. Alright, air box. Make sure you take this hose See this orange guide tube here? Aim for that. That's where we want to see it.
Would you get a code pop if you didn't put that back on?
This?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have mass air volume full. Any air coming into the engine that doesn't go by this thing is going to create a fall.
Gotcha.
Because the oxygen sensor is going to pick up that there's more air than the ECM told it was going to be coming. 2 based on my pump and my meter, 5.2 is what it likes. Cover back on.
Little startup test. Alrighty.
Popped in a water pump on a 2013 Beetle CDFA engine code. I did it the long way. I took off the intake manifold and the fan so you guys could really see what's going on. As far as tools needed for the job, pretty simple. Quarter T30, 8-inch quarter-inch extension, 2.5-inch quarter-inch extension, 5-inch quarter-inch extension, 17 millimeter wrench, 10 millimeter deep quarter-inch socket, a triple square 10 millimeter quarter-inch socket, a pair of your favorite hose clamp pliers, and a quarter-inch deep 7 millimeter socket. That should pretty much get you going. Aside from the pick you're going to need to change out the injector seals, a little bit of brake clean to clean the seats, and a fresh oil filter. I always recommend if you're taking the manifold off, you may as well replace it. Other than that, you guys should be good to go.